she's written scream. My Palestinian characters are supporters of the two-state solution. My Palestinian characters are ones who want to bring about peace. Even the terrorist, in whose mouth I put the case against Israel's right to exist, makes that case articulately. Two cases, actually. I have two characters. One, a Marxist from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, who makes the kind of anti-colonial claims against Israel, and the other, an Islamic extremist who believes that perspective. I try very hard to present characters. What she presents and what she's presented here today are stick figure, totally fake presentations of Israelis. For her, it's a one-sided conflict. For her, there was no truth on the side of Israel. For her, there was no Holocaust. For her, there was no Hajj al-Husseini. For her, there was no Yasser Arafat. For her, shut up. For her, there were no rockets from Gaza. To her, there were no Park Hotel. For her, there were no terrorist attacks. For her, this is all these horrible Israelis. And so look, you don't want to listen. My suggestion to Susan is what my son's suggestion was. Buy a billboard, write a screed.
We have the chance here.
I told you, hey buddy, you don't like my answer, but I gave you an answer. All right, I told you,
We have time for one more question. And whether or not people think that the answers are right, wrong, germane, or not, we learned something about the people who are giving them.
Look, there was real hope that we might have been able to come together here today, but that hope was dashed by the call for boycotts and investment, by turning a literary event into a crass political event, and the fault for that lies 100% on her side. 100%. I presented a balanced literary presentation, and she responded with a call for boycotts and investment. Shame on you.
I think, when in my opening statements, in fact, I was not calling. I was telling you of all the people in the world, the churches and the organizations who have heeded that call to boycott Israel. And the moral authority that is behind that, and the people, these are not bigots, these are not crazy people. No, these in fact
Anybody who calls
people of
for
conscience.
boycott or divestment against Israel and doesn't say a word about Darfur
This is where
or
we
Rwanda is a
nobody can
bigot.
speak, and when you say something he disagrees with, he calls you a name. And this is, I find that unseemly and really unbecoming of a Harvard professor, frankly.
And I told her I'm novelists should write novels.
I actually have read your novel. I don't think you've read mine. And in fact, I think that your depiction of Arabs is quite cartoonish. And I was really quite shocked by how little understanding you have of not just Palestinian society, but of the situation on the ground and the realities on the ground. The fact that, for example, a van cannot drive from Jerusalem to Jericho unimpeded. It's, I mean, there are so many holes and that really betray your lack of knowledge of what's happening on the ground.
Of course a van can drive. Of course a van can drive.
And I found it very cynical.
Jericho.
And I found it very cynical.
All right, so this is the
very cynical. I just want to say, I found it very cynical that he used, that he named his main terrorist in this novel by the name of Faisal Husseini, which is one of Palestine's most beloved sons. And, that in itself I find to be extremely...
okay, we understand.
A name like terrorist Husseini.
friends, we are out of time. And the idea of confining a discussion to a novel and a novelistic and literary context, for sure, is at least as hard as achieving peace.
Well, I did it.
And so those of you